Hello, my name is John Smithin. I'm the executive co-director and a fellow of the Aurora Philosophy Institute in Aurora, Ontario. The title of this talk is 10 Philosophical Mistakes. That is 10 philosophical mistakes with a question mark, 10 philosophical mistakes. Actually, the title originally this was the title of a book by Mortimer J. Adler, published around 35 years ago. The full title was 10 Philosophical Mistakes, Basic Errors in Modern Thought, How They Came About, Their Consequences, and How to Avoid Them. Adler, who lived from 1902 to 2001, was a well-known philosopher, educator, and popular author. He was the editor of the series Great Books of the Western World by Encyclopaedia Britannica, and one of the founders of the Institute for Philosophical Research. As these sorts of activities indicate, he, Adler, was actually not at all in sympathy, with the mainstream cultural and philosophical trends of his day. He thought that the mistakes, as he saw them, had serious negative consequences for, as he put it, our understanding of our lives, our institutions, and our experience. To me, that statement has a particular resonance at the present time in 2020. I put a question mark after the words mistakes in the title of this talk because not everyone will agree that they are mistakes. Nonetheless, whether we accept Adler's arguments or not, I still think that it will be a very useful exercise for our Aurora Philosophy Club to discuss each one of them in turn and hopefully in some depth. Going through the list, they seem to cover most of the topics and debates that recur again in philosophy. They certainly seem to touch many of the bases that we seem to come back to in our APC discussions time after time. We always seem to circle back to these very same topics. I'll later on I will literally list the 10 topics or mistakes. Now, the term modern, I think we should clarify, as in Adler's notion of modern thought, has a specialized meaning in philosophy. It does not just mean recent or up to date. I mean, clearly, much of recent thought is not modern in that sense at all. It might more correctly be described as postmodern. That is, up to date thought is postmodern in general. The time span of modern is actually from the early 17th century, way back in the early 17th century, from Descartes, René Descartes, through the rationalists and empiricists that Henry Tsiolkovsky talked about in the last APC talk, then on to Kant and the German idealists of the 19th century, and on into the early 20th century. In short, the term modern in philosophy is used simply by way of contrast with the ancient or classical philosophy of the Greeks, and also with the medieval philosophy of the scholastics. Adler thought that this modern philosophy is riddled with mistakes, and that it would be better for us to return to the wisdom of their predecessors, in particular Aristotle and Aquinas. Adler admitted that his own title, the title of his own book, was somewhat misleading. I think, as you might have guessed, in reality there are many more than just 10 philosophical mistakes. There are a large number, very large number of philosophical mistakes. A more exact title, Adler admitted, would have been 10 subjects about which philosophical mistakes have been made. Be that as it may, For our purposes, a simple list of the 10 subjects will suffice. These are: number 1, consciousness and its objects; number 2, the intellect and the senses; number 3, words and meanings; number 4, knowledge and opinion; number 5, moral values; number 6, happiness and contentment; number 7, freedom of choice; number 8, human nature; number 9, human society; and number 10, human existence. So this is a very wide range of topics, and I hope that we, that is to say, the members of the Aurora Philosophy Club and the associates of the Aurora Philosophy Institute, will be able to debate some or all of these subjects at length during the APC meetings in the 2021 season and beyond. My idea about this is this: any one of us has a particular interest in any of these topics, we could take it upon ourselves to lead the discussion. If one is interested in freedom of choice, for example, as a particular issue, why not lead a discussion, on that, and go through the issues in some detail. Perhaps we could start, perhaps a starting point would be taking a look at Adler's chapter on the particular topic first, and then just moving from there, expanding the discussion from that point. To give some idea of the sort of issues that might arise, let's briefly consider the first topic: consciousness and its objects. The basic issue, as Adler sees it there, is the question of what it is we are conscious of when we are indeed conscious. The mistake he thinks that many people make, including modern philosophers, is that they tend to suppose that what they are directly conscious of, and I might say all that they are directly conscious of, is the contents of their own mind. Now, this is true in some instances when, for example, we directly feel pleasure or pain or strains and aches in our bodies. That is to say, it applies to a class of thoughts in quotation marks, that we might call sensations. However, it does not apply to those contents of the mind that we might properly call ideas, such as things like memory, perceptions, concepts, and so forth. In the case of ideas, Adler's view is that it is always the idea's object of which we are directly conscious, not the object, not the idea itself. The ideas, and I'm quoting from Adler, are not that which we apprehend, but they are, again a quote, the means by which we apprehend the object. To take the opposite view, according to Adler, and I think I agree with this, simply locks up all the separate individuals, each in our own subjective headspace. We some in sense can't have contact with others, and leads to all of the pseudo problems and paradoxes of modern philosophy. By which I mean such things as the apparent need to prove the existence of an external reality, the critique of knowledge itself, skepticism, solipsism, idealism, and so on. So Adler identifies John Locke in the 17th century as the first to have made the crucial mistake by wrongly using the term idea to stand for all the contents of the mind, including sensations. By the same token, Locke also seemed to use the word thinking as a blanket term to cover all the activities of the mind, without exception. So therefore, Locke was unable to meaningfully, let me start again. Locke was therefore unable to meaningfully distinguish the intellect and the senses, which brings us directly to Adler's second topic, the intellect and the senses. And all of the remaining subjects are in one way or another related to this fundamental error of Locke's in the beginning. Adler argues that this original mistake by Locke was never picked up. It was common to all the British empiricists, including notably Hume, and then carried on uncorrected in Kant, Hegel, and onwards. Adler's remedy, as I say, would be to go back to the drawing board to recover the insights possessed by some of the ancients and the scholastics, namely, of course, Aristotle and Aquinas. Note that he would not recommend going back to, for example, Plato, Plotinus, or Augustine. There's implicitly a division or a split in both between both the ancients and the scholastics. Aristotle and Aquinas on one side, and Plato, Plotinus, Augustine on the other. That's also a very interesting, topic for debate. So I'll end there. The purpose of this was just to get people to be interested in these 10 subjects, and see if we can't make some more of it, see if we can't pursue these things in more depth in the future. So thank you very much.